Hey guys, welcome to the analysis for this Tuesday. It is October 16th, and today we're going to cover a few different pairs. One of the main things I wanted to show you was the US dollar Swiss breakout that you see on the chart right in front of you. This is a pair that I don't typically pay a whole lot of attention to, but because this breakout has been a very long time before prices moved out of this trend line, it's drawing a lot of attention to me, and it's one that we're thinking very seriously about taking short and looking for a long-term target on it. So we'll get into that. I'll give you a little more detail and also kind of give you a bit of training as to how I typically like to trade these opposite trend breakouts, and we'll cover that. Before we jump into that, let's take a look at what news we have coming up tomorrow. Alright guys, so as far as news goes, tomorrow we have a few red tagged events. The main thing for me is going to be that New York session building permits announcement for the US dollar, which Tony wrote an article for, so definitely check that out below. Speaking of which, Tony's articles are really good. They're really consistent. I know that a lot of people watch the analysis and either forget or don't think to check out the fundamental side of things, but it's really important to do that to give you a more complete picture of the markets. Kind of having that fundamental and technical things combined is a great way to get an overall look of the market. Now, Tony doesn't do a lot of like forecasting as far as what's going to happen, but just more information, and it's good. Being a trader, it's really good to have that information surrounding you so that you can make sense of what's going on in the markets, because a lot of times they seem not to make sense, but obviously the more understanding you have about what's going on, the better understanding you have of why the market is doing what it's doing. So it is important to check out those articles. I highly suggest that you do that. Get some information on the fundamental side of things and leave some feedback for Tony as well. Alright, let's also take a look at our term. Alright, and we go over these every day just because, for legal purposes, it's important that you understand what the daily analysis is all about. And basically what the terms say is that we're not licensed or registered or qualified to provide investment advice for you. This is only a free service that we do for educational purposes, and it's not to be misinterpreted as investment advice and telling you what to do with your money. Alrighty, so make sure you understand that and pause the video and read that through if you need to. But I am ready to jump into our daily analysis. Alright, so again, the first thing I wanted to show you was this US dollar Swiss breakout, and you can see that, well, let me fix this trend line. It's a little bit off here. Let me scroll up and get touching most of my points there so you can see it correctly. Aha. Alright, there we go. So it's touching all of the key points here. You can see it starts here. 3 touches right there, very consistent. Touch here, a fake to the bottom there, and a breakout with today's daily bar, and this is a daily chart. So we're breaking out right now, currently at the price at about 92.63, and so this is a trade that I am very confident about as far as worth taking. Now, I'm not necessarily confident that it's going to be a winning trade, but I'm confident in its reasonability as a trade to take, and let me tell you why. Number one, there's been downward pressure in recent weeks. You can see this double top here. Both have pushed down and tested, and of course we're coming off a very strong leg right here that has pushed down all the way from near parity down toward 93 and now below 93. So there's definitely downward pressure in recent times with the USD Swiss. Another reason is probably my favorite reason, and that's just the risk-reward ratio that you can have. A good stop loss for this, a very safe stop loss, might be above these levels up here, which will be very safe. I would probably take my stop loss actually all the way down here, just making sure that I protect myself against a poke back to the trend line, but not all the way up here, because I want to get my size as big as I can without ruining my trade potential. And then my target would be all the way down here where this point touched. There's recent support and resistance that I can't scroll all the way back to show you because it'd make the chart too small to even see anything. But this level all the way down here where you see my red horizontal line would be my target, and that is a little over 600 pips. I'll show you right here. We take it from here. 675 pips about from current price to my potential target, and then you can compare that to what I would probably do as a 110 pip stop loss or so. So that's about a 6-to-1 risk-reward ratio, which is why I really like the potential of taking this trade. Again, anytime you're in a reversal of a trend, there's a high percentage chance that it's going to be a fake out. So you're never thinking about a 75% win percentage when you're taking an opposite trend breakout or a trend reversal. However, the risk-reward ratio of it is what makes it worthwhile in terms of taking the trade. And then, of course, you're going to use solid trade management on a trade like this to try to get all the value out of the trade that you can. So that's what I like about the US dollar Swiss. That's why I'm going to be taking it short, and why I think that it has a lot of potential, even though it is counter trend, which I don't typically love. Okay, so just look at that. Obviously make your own assessment of it, and I would love for you to leave a comment on it as well. Getting feedback on certain trade ideas is great for me, so please do that as well. All right, let's move to the euro. So on the euro dollar here, we have this move back up past the 130 level, which is not a huge surprise. We kind of talked about the upward pressure from this trend line here, and the problem is that the 130 level, you think a break of that would mean strong continuation, but since the original break, it really hasn't meant that. There's been kind of bounces back and forth, and we're kind of setting up a channel here where we don't see a lot of consistent movement. So what could happen is just a continuation of sideways movement right on top of a major level, which does tend to happen at times around these major levels. So hopefully what we'll see is obviously a break of this little level, and then eventually a break of this level. And if we get through there, then we'll be looking at long-term potential for the euro dollar. But right now, I'm just not so confident because this 130 level, price has kind of just been struggling and hanging right around it, rather than continuing several hundred pips beyond it. Okay, so that's the euro dollar. To me, it looks like good price action, moving up, bouncing off a trend line, as you can see there. But it's hard for me to be really confident in the long-term potential because of the previous breaks right back and forth through the 130 area, and not following through previously. Okay, so let's look at the pound dollar and kind of compare what we have going on there. Now the pound dollar is also moving up. You can see clearly off this trend line. However, we can see with the pound dollar there's more of a clear level up here to target, whereas on the euro dollar it's not so clear. So continuation off this trend line would lead us to believe that it's going to head up towards the 162.85 area to be exact, and what this previous resistance was, which you can see here as well. Whoops, messed up my little square there, but as well as here. So those are the two major points where we see price has turned around and reversed back to the downside off those levels, and we're going to see if price can get back up there on this one. Now I'm not so confident in the pound dollars moving up either, because if the euro starts to reverse and head back down, normally the pound dollar follows suit. Of course, that's not always the case, but it's what you typically expect. That the pound and the euro are going to run together against the dollar. So it's kind of up in the air as far as the pound dollar and the euro dollar are concerned. I think there's definitely long potential in both of them, short potential in both of them if they break back down. But right now, I would just rather worry about other pairs because the pound dollar and the US dollar, or excuse me, the pound dollar and the euro dollar are just not being extremely clear to me at this point in time. So I'm paying more attention to other pairs like the US Swiss, ironically, even though you normally consider that running the the exact opposite of the euro dollar. However, that has a much more clear break than the euro dollar right now. So I'm kind of paying more attention to that one. Kind of an interesting situation there. All right, let's look at the odd dollar real quick here. And so basically the only thing I really want to point out with the odd is that it's continuing, although very slowly, the bounce off this middle area of the trend, kind of heading up towards the top resistance area here around 106. So just keep that in mind. Obviously not getting a lot of great movement out of the odd, but it does look like it wants to work back up and come back to test 106. So keep your eye on that one. Another great move today was the euro pound, definitely headed up with some momentum, which is nice. Looking again to kind of make this higher high that we talked about before, and looks like it wants to go that route. So it's just a matter of if the euro can continue to beat out that pound as far as overall strength, and we'll head towards these higher highs, which looks to be of high probability to me at this point. Kind of what I've been thinking all along. However, you had to suffer through this period here if you were long on euro pound to get to where we are now, kind of matching the previous high of this little upward movement. So hopefully we'll kind of get one of these motions where we get to a higher high. Okay, and the last pair I wanted to touch on real quick, as I was talking about looking at other pairs, was the Euro AUD. With the Euro AUD, we can see obviously this downward trend line that I talked about for so long, and where price rallied up, and I really thought that it was going to come back and test right here, where the horizontal level here, and here, and here, and here meets the trend line. I thought, wow, this is going to be a great magnet for price. We didn't quite get there before we started reversing back to the downside, but now we've kind of renewed that rally to the upside. And to me, again, this is a major target for price. So definitely want to keep an eye on that one if you're a Euro AUD trader, because it's looking like price wants to get back up into that area. If we zoom up on this, you can see that today's bar was not an extremely strong bar. Let me pull down my label back here again. Not an extremely strong bar for the Euro AUD today, but still making a new high over the little stall bar that we had from yesterday. So we had this little stall bar here, and we at least made a new high pushing up. So as far as I'm concerned, this is still intact as far as a swinging up toward this area, which is where I'm watching. So I'm keeping an eye right here and thinking that price wants to get back into that area around 129.90 basically is the general zone where I think price is targeting. So keep an eye on that one. Looks to me like a great signal, and I'm thinking that the Euro AUD is certainly gonna try to continue in that direction. All right, guys. Well, that's about it for today's analysis. I hope you enjoyed it. Thinking about these long-term potential, make sure that you're very consistent and wise in your trade management, because it's very important that you keep your risk under control when you're targeting the long-term setups, because to be honest, it doesn't make any sense, or it doesn't help at all to hit really large long-term winners if you're taking big hits everywhere else. Okay, so that's why it's important to keep your risk under control. Alrighty, guys, that's about it for the analysis. Thank you again for watching. Be sure to check out Tony's fundamental article below, and I will talk to you guys soon.